She inherited 33M and kicked me out, but just 3 days later, she returned in tears asking for help. Jenna stood at the foot of the stairs, her heart heavy in her chest. The echo of Melanie's disdain hung in the small living room, the finality of those words reverberating louder than any thunderstorm outside. 33 million. The figure danced mockingly in her mind, a bitter reminder of the love and camaraderie that had shattered into sharp fragments during their childhood. Jenna had always imagined a life where their bond would prevail, even in the toughest times. Instead, Melanie had acted with the cruelty of betrayal, wielding wealth like a weapon to smile down at the sister who had always protected her. Now, Jenna was homeless, forced out of the only home she'd ever known, her heart lurching as memories of their shared laughter and secrets clouded her thoughts. She had chosen a life of service, nursing others back to health in their tranquil Midwestern town, while Melanie had chased after ghosts of jealousy and desire for a life lived in luxury. The pain in her chest twisted as she grappled with her feelings. Was she angry? Was she hurt? Or was it the stinging sense of loss that left her feeling so hollow and exposed? Days became a blur. Jenna's nursing shift brought little solace, her heart wouldn't settle. Hospital corridors echoed with laughter and warmth, the soothing scent of antiseptic a cruel reminder of the sterile detachment she now felt from her own life. As she helped her patients, their weary eyes reflected the kindness she longed to find in her own. A gentle touch, a listening ear, those were her currencies, yet here she was, being robbed of the stability she had built her life around. She told herself she had to be strong, to remain the caretaker, even while her own heart shattered. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. 3 days later, while the storm raged outside and slid like tears down the window pane, Jenna was jolted into reality by frantic knocking at her door. She froze, memories flooding back. Hadn't she always said she would be there for Melanie? When she opened the door, the sight of her sister, her mascara smudged and her designer clothes drenched, struck Jenna like a lightning bolt. Melanie stood before her, a shell of the confident woman who had discarded their past so gleefully. For the first time, fear flickered behind Melanie's eyes, her new fortune now a crushing weight as she stood on the precipice of vulnerability and regret. I lost everything, she stammered, desperation bleeding through her words. Jenna felt an unexpected pang of compassion, threading through the tangled mess of resentment. Yet, with that emotion, doubt crept in. What would it mean if she opened her heart to Melanie again? Time seemed to crawl, the rain pounding a relentless rhythm against the door. Jenna's mind raced, torn between the sister who had so swiftly closed the door on her and the one who now needed help. As tension prickled in the air, the choice loomed larger than life itself. Could love outweigh bitterness? Would forgiveness lay the foundation for something new, or would it only deepen the wounds already scarring their bond? In the midst of a storm both outside and inside, Jenna stood paralyzed, heart racing, grappling with the darkest corners of her soul, questioning what it truly meant to be family. The rain drummed a relentless beat against the roof as Jenna regarded her sister, a tempest of conflict raging within her. The familiar contours of Melanie's face now appeared unfamiliar, haunted by the weight of her recent choices. It was almost as if the wealth had stolen the very essence of who she was, stripping her down to a frightened, vulnerable child. Against her better judgment, Jenna stepped back and gestured for her sister to enter. The comforting warmth of her home felt starkly contrasting against Melanie's frigid demeanor, now softened by desperation. Lettuce green walls seemed to sigh as they witnessed the wavering boundaries of sisterhood, slowly eroding between past grievances and present turmoil. Please, Jenna, Melanie's voice trembled, shame lacing her words as she sank onto the couch. I was lost in all of it. The parties, the business deals, all the people I thought were my friends didn't care about me, not really. Jenna caught her breath, the recollection of nights spent listening to Melanie's dreams of glitz and glamour overshadowing her own aspirations. Did all that wealth come at the cost of genuine connection? What do you need? Jenna managed, though her tone was clouded by hesitation. A million thoughts collided in her mind. Was this a ploy to reclaim their old relationship, or the beginning of a reconciliation founded on a new truth? Tears streamed down Melanie's cheeks, glistening like shards of glass reflecting the pain in her heart. I thought money would solve everything. But now I feel more alone than ever. I need your help to get back on track. Please. Jenna's resolve wavered, her instinct to care battling with the gnawing distrust she felt for the sister who had coldly discarded her. The weight of their shared past pressed down upon her like a heavy cloak. Every concession now felt heavy with the potential for betrayal again. What do you mean? Jenna questioned softly, attempting to peel back the layers of hurt that lay dormant between them, and perhaps, too, confront her own longing for sibling harmony. I need to find a way to manage my life, to start fresh, Melanie confessed, her admission hanging in the air like an uninvited guest. I thought I could buy my way into being a person who matters. But it backfired. I'm not even sure what to do with it all. Gradually, Jenna began to realize that this was more than a plea for assistance. It was a call for redemption, not just from Melanie, but from herself. She could sense the tremors of change rippling through both their lives. They were two daughters of the same home, both burdened and seeking solace in the cracks of a fractured relationship. The silence snaked between them, heavy and palpable. Jenna weighed her next words deliberately, her heart a battlefield of yearning and caution. Maybe we could figure this out together. But you need to be honest with yourself too. What is it you really want, Melanie? Melanie wiped her eyes, the storm raging on outside mimicking the struggle brewing within. I want to feel whole again. I want to rebuild, without the expectations that came with the money. Jenna felt a stirring within her, perhaps this pivot towards vulnerability warranted a risk. Could there be hope for a renewed bond in the ashes of betrayal? As the rain continued to thrash against the window, Jenna sensed the weight of an undeniable truth. They could either let the past define them or confront it, together. The time for honest reflection was upon them, a moment poised on the edge of transformation. But as she forged the path to forgiveness, a nagging uncertainty loomed large. What if Melanie slipped back into old behaviors as soon as the weight of reality bore down heavy upon them again? Caught between hope and trepidation, Jenna was left teetering on the precipice of a difficult decision. Should they embark together on this hazardous path of reconciliation, or would she risk unearthing deeper pain hidden within? Jenna leaned back in her chair, the weight of the decision pressing into her chest. Each droplet of rain seemed to echo the fortitude she was struggling to summon. She had spent so long curating her life around stability and reliability, only to find herself entangled in this tumultuous mess of familial duty and past grievances. Was this truly the fork in the road that would lead to something transformational, or merely another cycle of hurt and disappointment? Melanie's body trembled slightly as she inhaled deeply, as if the act of breathing was a conscious reminder of her fragility. The tension in the air crackled, a confrontation loomed just beneath the surface of their conversation. Jenna wanted to rebuff the nagging memories of betrayal, but Melanie's vulnerable state tugged at her heartstrings. Perhaps this was the moment when both could unearth the truths buried deep beneath false facades. Jenna, I know I can't fix what I've done, but I have skills. I used to manage a team, organize projects. I just need to recalibrate, Melanie confessed, her voice gaining strength from newfound determination. There was a flicker of the sister Jenna once knew, the ambitious one who thrived on challenges and responsibilities. But the price of that ambition had clearly taken a toll. That essay start, Jenna replied slowly, weighing her words. But managing people and managing your life are two very different things. You need clarity about what you genuinely want, no more chasing status. What does that look like for you now? Melanie blinked, startled by the directness of the inquiry. I don't know, she admitted, her shoulders slumping. I thought I wanted success, but I just want peace now. I want to feel connected, to influence others positively, away from the empty glitter. Jenna's heart softened. There, among all the chaos, was a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this was the chance for both of them to untangle the mess of their lives in tandem. Melanie craved redemption, and Jenna craved reassurance that she could still believe in her sister. Let us start smaller, Jenna proposed, shaking off the lingering doubts. What if we create a plan together? One that not only prioritizes rebuilding your career, whatever that may be, but also reconnects us? We can take steps toward mutual understanding, slowly. You need to embrace honesty with yourself first. Melanie's expression shifted, concerns morphed into resolve. Okay, but I want to take responsibility for my actions. I won't pretend anything is easy. I'll face my mistakes instead of running. Yes, and I'll be right here. It will be a shared journey, Jenna assured, her words resonating with cautious optimism. Their gazes locked, and a silent pact formed between them, a commitment to delve into the depths of their vulnerabilities and strive for growth. But the question still lingered in Jenna's mind. What would a path of mutual growth mean for their futures? As the rain quieted for a moment, a sense of urgency enveloped her. Would this revelation lead them to a stronger bond, or was it merely a facade camouflaging unresolved pain? With a deep breath, Jenna stood, feeling a surge of commitment surge through her. Let's make a list of steps tonight. We'll outline your strengths, consider what's truly important, we'll take it from there. But remember, Melanie, this isn't just about your reinvention. We have to rebuild our relationship, too. Melanie nodded, her eyes lit with a flicker of hope. But doubt crept back in. Jenna could sense it lingering in the air. As they gathered their thoughts, Jenna couldn't shake the irony of their situation. Two sisters seemingly on the precipice of redemption, yet tethered to the ghosts of their past selves. Would their united front withstand the tests ahead, or would the shadows from Melanie's past rise again to threaten their newfound connection? The moment of truth was fast approaching, and Jenna braced herself for the revelations that would unfold next. Jenna sat cross-legged on the living room floor, a spiral notebook and a handful of colored pens strewn around her. The once heavy atmosphere had shifted slightly. The dampness from the rain had been replaced by the scent of lavender candles flickering on the table, casting warm shadows across the walls. An unsteady camaraderie sat between her and Melanie, both yearning for a semblance of connection yet fearfully aware of the past lurking like a dark cloud. Let's start with your strengths, Jenna prompted, pen poised, her heart racing in anticipation of each revelation. What have you excelled at in the past? Melanie hesitated, her fingers tracing the rim of a cup filled with lukewarm tea. I took pride in creating unity within teams. I had a talent for seeing potential in others, guiding them, But I lost that somewhere. Jenna observed Melanie with analytical intensity. And what about now? What would you consider a personal strength? I can be honest, Melanie replied slowly, her eyes meeting Jenna's, sparking an unspoken honesty. I didn't always value transparency, but now I understand how important it is. I guess I like to think I'm resilient. Resilience. The term hung in the air, a palpable acknowledgement of the obstacles they both faced. Jenna felt an urge to challenge Melanie further, but she resisted. She needed to guide, not push. Instead, she jotted down the word in bold letters, feeling a sense of empowerment swell within her. Each word written echoed a commitment not only to Melanie's growth but to reinvigorate Jenna's own identity as a sister and facilitator. What comes next is tougher, Jenna continued. What have you struggled with? What aspects of your life or decisions led you here? Her voice, tempered with both encouragement and gravity, aimed to lead Melanie into uncharted territory. Tears pooled in Melanie's eyes. The facade of perfection. I thought I had to maintain an image, always busy, always in control, always the best. And when I failed, her voice trembled. I felt like a fraud. The admission hung in the air like a storm cloud, yet it stirred something profound in Jenna. She, too, had clung to the illusion of a flawless life, always striving for an unattainable standard. In that moment, they shared a vulnerability that bridged the gap of resentment. You're not a fraud, Mel. Just human. We've both made our choices based on a twisted sense of value. Melanie winced, but there was a flicker of understanding lighting up her expression. Maybe recognizing it is the first step. But accepting mistakes isn't enough. Jenna leaned forward, heart racing as she sought to plant seeds of introspection. What's your plan to change that? How do you see yourself in a year? I'd like to help others who have lost their way, Just like me, Melanie whispered, the quiet strength beginning to swell. To mentor and support individuals trying to piece their lives back together. Inspired by her sister's revelation, Jenna felt an electrifying urge to reclaim her own purpose. Suddenly, managing the complexities of their redefined relationship filled her with a determination she hadn't anticipated. That's brilliant. What skills will you need to achieve this goal? Melanie brightened at the prospect. Training. I need to learn how to communicate effectively, structure mentoring sessions, build a network. There's so much. But I'm ready to roll up my sleeves. Encouraged, Jenna began to scribble notes, her pen gliding across the page with newfound urgency. It was more than a plan, it was a promise of renewal and growth, a roadmap they could both follow. Yet, a nagging thought stirred in Jenna's mind: what if Melanie's past failures rattled their commitments or threatened this new direction? The doubt lingered ominously as the storm clouds rolled back in, mirroring the turbulence inside Jenna. While their conversation surged forward, she couldn't shake the image of their pasts corrupting the bright visions of their futures. As they concluded their brainstorming session, Jenna knew this was merely the beginning. They had opened doors worth exploring, but shadows of the past always had a way of creeping back, ready to dismantle even the most ambitious plans. With this realization, Jenna felt the urgency rise within her. What obstacles would emerge, and how would they confront the reality of their intertwined journeys, mired in uncertainty? With a deep breath, Jenna steeled herself for the challenges ahead. The path would not be straightforward, but it was one worth pursuing, especially as she considered the musings of unresolved feelings that still linked them, each secret buried whispering of a confrontation yet to come. As morning light filtered through the window, casting golden rays across the cluttered living room, Jenna felt a pang of determination melded with trepidation as she prepared for the next steps with Melanie. The previous night had sparked something vital within her. It was clear now that both she and her sister were embarking on a journey of redemption and self-realignment. The air hummed with an electric anticipation, urging them to act. Jenna barely finished her cup of coffee before she grabbed her phone to research potential training programs for aspiring mentors. Her fingers flew across the screen, fueled by an inner resolve not just to assist Melanie but to redefine her own boundaries. What had once felt like familial obligation was shifting into collaborative growth. A partnership steeped in vulnerability and hope. The idea of a mentor's training program ignited within her an instinctual drive. She envisioned an environment where Melanie could flourish, yet every click brought a fresh wave of doubt about her own qualifications. After all, who was she to guide anyone when she felt in desperate need of her own direction? A familiar anxiety crept into her thoughts, nearly causing her to close the app and retreat. No. She exhaled, a mantra of pushing back against her self-doubt. She needed to harness her role as a supportive sister, one who could not only witness but actively participate in transformation. Her focus shifted back to the research, and instead of retreating, she stumbled upon an innovative online course on effective mentorship and communication. It was an opportunity to learn alongside Melanie, to ensure they could build something authentic, together. Jenna hit the enroll button with an impulsive urgency, not stopping to consider the potential barriers that lay ahead, like their financial situation or the time it would demand from their day-to-day responsibilities. As the day wore on, Jenna initiated a deeper conversation with Melanie, focusing on actionable steps that would lead her towards her goal. They huddled together, strategy flowing more freely as layers of concern began to peel away. Jenna laid out her excitement about the course and presented it as a collaborative endeavor. Both would dive into the reins of building their futures. Melanie's face lit up under the implications of shared learning. There was an electric synergy in the air. But as they mapped out their path, a gust of wind rattled the window, bringing with it the sharp remembrance of their past and Melanie's fallacies. Jenna couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling that stability was still elusive, and the shadows she had hoped to leave behind were stirred once more. She felt compelled to confront the darker realities of their relationship, where failures proliferated like weeds in their family's garden. Mel, how do you feel about what lies ahead? Are you ready? Jenna asked, her tone measured, testing the edges of Melanie's vulnerability. I think I'm terrified, Melanie admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. What if I fail again? What if I fall back into that dark place? The conversation skidded to a halt as Jenna's heart lurched. Them battling their pasts would not just be a casual footnote, it could derail every plan they were forging. Her stomach tightened as she contemplated the stakes of their budding venture. This was no mere project but an evolution of who they were and how they viewed themselves. With renewed conviction, Jenna placed a hand on Melanie's arm, conveying both strength and assurance. "We're not alone in this. The truth is we pave the way with understanding there will be setbacks. Just recognizing potential pitfalls is part of the process, and we can navigate it together." As their brainstorming turned to discussing potential hurdles, Jenna felt something pivotal unfold within her, a growing awareness of her own agency. She was no longer just Melanie's sister, she was an ally determined to excavate change from the ruins of their past, but as their plan solidified, a gripping worry began to weave itself into the fabric of Jenna's thoughts. How would they handle potential failures? What if the very foundation of their endeavor, honesty and transparency, cracked under pressure? In the quiet that followed their discussion, Jenna closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The future loomed ahead, cloaked in uncertainty yet bright with possibility, needing them to confront darkness with the light of renewed commitment. Thus, the question became not merely about success but about resilience in the face of impending trials. With every fleeting moment came the promise of new beginnings, but inevitably, Jenna knew, the time would come when they must confront the weight of their shared past. Would they hold fast in their resolve, or would the remnants of their turmoil build walls impenetrable once more? The sun cast a pronounced glow across Jenna's face as the afternoon wore on, the warmth enveloping her yet failing to extinguish the relentless flicker of anxiety within. The remnants of their earlier conversation echoed in her mind, but this time, rather than retreating into doubt, she decided to channel her energy into proactive measures. The decisions made thus far felt monumental, and she could sense the transformative power they were nurturing together. With brows furrowed, Jenna focused on drafting a structured plan for the mentorship program. She created a shared document on her computer, outlining their objectives and individual responsibilities. As she typed, her heart raced with determination. Each point articulated in the document reflected not only their aspirations but their commitment to pushing past the stale confines of their past failures. A plan crystallized in her mind, and the act of writing felt like tethering loose threads, bringing forth clarity amidst the chaos. "Melanie, come look at this," Jenna called, beckoning her sister over to the desk. Melanie leaned over her shoulder, scanning the list. "It looks amazing. But do you really think we can tackle all of this?" Her excitement was laced with uncertainty. Jenna paused, her confidence wavering. "The truth is, I don't know. But we'll figure it out as we go. Remember, the first step is just showing up and being present." Melanie nodded, absorbing Jenna's resolve, but Jenna could see the flicker of unease still clinging to her sister's features. They were on the brink of something significant, yet the specters of their pasts loomed close, testing their resolve. It suddenly struck Jenna that in order to help Melanie, she must first confront her own shadows. "Mel, maybe before we press on, we should talk about our weaknesses, what we need to avoid," Jenna suggested, her voice steady yet vulnerable. "What do you think makes you hesitate about this journey?" Melanie looked thoughtful as she chewed her lip. "I guess it's the fear of disappointment. In the past, I've let you down and let myself down. I don't want to go back to that place." Jenna felt a knot form in her gut, a visceral reminder of the helplessness they had both felt over the years. Yet she couldn't ignore her own fear that had begun to unfurl like a poorly written narrative in her mind that she would fail Melanie when it mattered most. "We both have a tendency to lose faith," Jenna admitted, "but what if this time we didn't shy away from the hard conversations? We should hold each other accountable." Surprisingly, Melanie smiled, albeit hesitantly. "Yeah, I like that. If we're transparent about our struggles, maybe the weight will feel lighter." The exchange felt like the breaking dawn, a slow but certain unraveling of pressures that had kept them trapped for too long. As they continued to fine-tune their strategy, an unexpected instinct surged within Jenna. They should incorporate regular check-ins as part of their plan, sessions dedicated solely to discussing their emotional and mental states. Without missing a beat, they mapped out a schedule that emphasized openness, diversity, and resilience. Jenna sensed that the act of vocalizing their fears was part of the catharsis. Every planning session would be a process anchored in shared vulnerability. Yet, as they prepared to draft the final touches of their course, an unsettling thought whispered into Jenna's consciousness. What if discussing their weaknesses hampered Melanie's progress rather than fostering it? Was it really worth diving into every aspect of their pains, or should they focus solely on constructing a new path? The looming uncertainty was suffocating, and Jenna considered whether her plans could navigate the unpredictable territories that lay ahead. How could she present a sturdy framework when the very nature of their journey was rooted in stormy waters? As they transitioned back into the more manageable scope of lesson formations, Jenna couldn't shake the discomfort slithering through her. Beyond the practicality of planning, her senses heightened. A confrontation was finding its way into their structure, a delicate dance between hope and fear, ambition and trepidation. In that moment, Jenna realized that while building a future required boots on the ground, it also required a willingness to confront the emotional battleground that accompanied every step. The fate of their endeavors rested not just on well-laid plans, but on heart-aligning transparency to navigate their resilience. As their session wound down, Jenna's heart raced at the thought of the next phase of this exploration. There was still much to uncover and reckon with. Little did they know, the true test of their resolve loomed closer than they imagined, waiting in the shadows to strike when least expected. Would they rise again, united, or risk being fractured by their past all over? And as the final notes filled the room, Jenna felt a deep, unsettling certainty. The next step was about to demand everything from them. Jenna stared at the screen, the cursor blinking as if it mirrored her racing thoughts, a metronome of uncertainty punctuating the silence. With their plan taking shape, she felt the weight of its enormity settling on her shoulders. Could vulnerability genuinely function as a mechanism for growth? The prospect gnawed at her, a palpable anxiety simmering beneath her determination. "Okay, let us talk about the first meeting," Jenna said, breaking the tension with a new focus. She watched Melanie's face brighten slightly, a flicker of hope igniting beneath the anxiety. "If we're going to establish this mentorship program, we need to frame our first interaction as both a welcome and an opportunity for collaboration." Melanie leaned back, her hands clasped. "Do you think they'll engage? What if they feel like we're just rehashing the past?" Rehashing the past. Jenna grimaced inwardly. Her instinct was to push forward, to turn the page to something fresh and exhilarating. But what if their shared struggles shaped their future as much as their successes? Engagement comes from authenticity. If we approach it honestly and without pretense, I think they might surprise us, Jenna replied, her voice gaining strength. They spent the next hour crafting an agenda, balancing discussions on their goals with the need for transparency. Jenna's hands moved with purpose as she typed bulleted points for their presentation. But each keystroke reverberated with her fears. What if they failed to connect? What if their articulated vulnerabilities fell flat, leaving them exposed and empty? She quickly shook off the thoughts. She was done second-guessing her plans. Later, with the evening wrapping around them like a comforting blanket, Jenna made her way to the kitchen. Melanie followed, her footsteps echoing Jenna's internal contemplation. As they prepared dinner, Melanie turned off the music and leaned against the counter. "Jenna?" A softness laced Melanie's voice, and Jenna became acutely aware of the solemnity that often surfaced at pivotal moments. "Yeah? Do you really think we're ready for this? I mean, what if we're just running back into an even darker place?" Her vulnerability hung heavily in the air. Jenna regarded her sister closely, searching for the faintest glow of reassurance. "I think we owe it to ourselves to try," Jenna answered, though she felt the tightening of her own apprehensions. "This isn't just about the mentorship. It's about us, and our growth together." Melanie's brow furrowed, and Jenna could sense her need for affirmation. "You're right. But what if it's too much? What if we collapse under the weight of it?" Jenna's heart sank for a moment. She recalled every instance they had faltered in the past, the moments that left them raw and fractured. But those memories sparked something else within her, an ember of resilience. "Then we acknowledge it and adapt. It wouldn't be a failure, it would be a part of the process. This is just as much about learning to navigate the complications," Jenna emphasized, trying to sound resolute even as an internal storm brewed. As the conversation wound down, uncertainty danced between them, but so did an emerging strength. It was a bond forged over years of facing adversity, and the promise of shared accountability made the prospect appear more manageable, albeit daunting. In the midst of this conversation, Jenna suddenly thought about one participant in particular, a woman they both admired from a distance whose career seemed to take off fearlessly against all odds. What if we reached out to her for an advice session? She could shed light on how she managed similar challenges, she proposed. Melanie's eyes widened. You think she'd help us? Why not? It's never too late to seek guidance. Besides, what if she held the key to a door we hadn't considered? Jenna felt the surge of motivation mingle with trepidation. This new path was fraught with obstacles yet littered with opportunities. As Jenna and Melanie fell back into their preparations, Jenna knew they stood at the precipice of something unprecedented. Doubt still lingered like a shadow, but the act of reaching out to someone who had traversed similar roads felt invigorating and terrifying. A door already ajar, they soon had the meeting with their sought mentor planned for the following week, but within Jenna, an unsettling feeling persisted. Would they feel empowered by this guidance or stifled by the burden of their vulnerabilities? The looming encounter would require every ounce of courage they could muster, not just to embrace their journey but to confront what awaited them on the other side. As midnight crept in, it struck Jenna that the true test of their strength was not merely in planning or executing their mentorship, but in embracing the fear head-on. A thought flashed through her mind: what if confronting their pasts during this process unveiled truths they weren't prepared to handle? Would they risk the fragile balance of what had begun to feel like a new journey? And as the weight of that speculation hung in the air, Jenna realized that each step forward would demand radical honesty, a reckoning neither of them had truly anticipated. Did they have the guts to face their emotions, or would the shadows of their past triumph once again? The days leading up to their meeting with the mentor dragged for Jenna, each hour tethered by anticipation and dread. As she sat at her desk, the light filtering through the window, she felt the familiar flutter of nerves in her stomach. She noted how the uncertainty had become a staple of her days, like an uninvited guest refusing to leave. Reflecting on the message she had crafted to send to the mentor, Jenna was simultaneously excited and paralyzed. Would she respond? Could they forge a connection? Part of Jenna longed for affirmation, while another part feared that their hopes might collide with reality. Engaging with someone who had successfully navigated the challenges Jenna and Melanie faced felt like standing at the edge of an abyss, both terrifying and exhilarating. Melanie appeared in the doorway, her brow creased in concern. You okay? She asked, her voice soft yet probing, as if she could sense the turmoil bubbling just beneath Jenna's composed facade. Yeah, just thinking, Jenna replied, forcing a smile as she turned her attention back to her screen. She began to type, but the words clipped together awkwardly, reflecting her anxiety. How could she possibly convey the depths of their need for guidance without sounding desperate? What if she dismisses us? Murmured Melanie, stepping into the room and breaking the suffocating silence. What if she doesn't want to waste her time? The doubt echoed within Jenna as she thought of the flashy accomplishments this mentor flaunted with effortless grace. We need to put ourselves out there, Jenna replied, her voice strained with determination. If we don't, we'll never know. The tension felt heavy, as if wrapped in a thick fog. Jenna knew this was about more than just establishing a mentorship, it was a chance to confront their fears of inadequacy head-on. Each moment spent worrying about the mentor's potential rejection pushed her backwards while simultaneously urging her towards self-acceptance and growth. As they pulled together the final details of their presentation, she tried to redirect her energy towards constructive thoughts. They could no longer afford to dwell on what-ifs that could stifle their progress. As the date loomed closer, Jenna chose to frame their planned interaction as an opportunity, a chance to make a statement rather than sidestep the truth of their journey. With each passing day, it became increasingly clear that vulnerability was a gateway to strength, not a sign of weakness. She crafted her thoughts into a concise message, but just as she was about to hit send, her finger hovered over the mouse, doubt creeping in once more. What if this was a mistake? The confusion swirled within her, battling her growing resolve. Maybe they would be better off figuring it out on their own. But beneath that doubt was a burgeoning realization: they had already faced adversity, reaching out was simply another hurdle, one she was determined to leap over. With a deep breath, Jenna pressed send, the message flying into the digital abyss. She felt a surge of nervous energy alongside exhilaration. It was done. The decision to ask for guidance had been made. Yet that decision reverberated deeper than the right course of action, it marked a personal shift from fear to agency. That evening, as she prepared dinner with Melanie, Jenna confided her mixed feelings about the response. What if I'm not enough? She admitted quietly, the weight of her vulnerabilities spilling out. What if she sees right through us? Melanie paused, her knife halting in midair as if considering the depth of Jenna's sentiment. Then we lean into that, she replied firmly. We need to own our story, every part. Jenna reflected on Melanie's words, feeling a flicker of hope emerge from her heart's crevices. This wasn't merely about seeking help, it was about redefining their narrative and reclaiming their voices. As they spoke, Jenna realized that vulnerability could reshape their futures. It was a reclamation of power. And as the night stretched onward, their conversation solidified something profound. They faced an impending challenge, yet the true confrontation lay not with the mentor but with themselves, the shadows that taunted them, lurking within their own minds. With the meeting fast approaching, Jenna felt the tension in her chest tighten again. It dawned on her that the real test had only just begun. Would they have the courage to share their stories authentically, or would they succumb to the fear of being seen? As the thought left her mind, she grasped her sister's hand, drawing strength from their bond. They were in this together not just for the mentorship but for their own liberation from the chains of their past. But before they could plan their next steps, her phone dinged, shattering the resolve they had just built. The message from the mentor flashed on the screen, and Jenna's heart raced in response. Was this opening a door, or merely a reminder of the precipice they teetered over? Jenna's heart pounded as she unlocked her phone, her mind racing through 100 possibilities. The mentor's name glowed brightly on the screen, almost taunting her. She hesitated, aware that this moment could redefine everything. Was it confirmation or rejection? Taking a deep breath, she opened the message, her eyes scanning the words with frantic urgency. Thank you for reaching out, Jenna. I appreciate your honesty in sharing your journey. Let us set up a time to talk further. What should have felt like a relief only deepened Jenna's anxiety, her mind immediately spiraling into an array of doubts. She read the text again, disbelief mingling with elation. They had been acknowledged. This mentor saw them. Yet, the weight of expectation threatened to crush her. What does it say? Melanie leaned in, her eyes wide with curiosity and excitement. Jenna closed her eyes momentarily, gathering the courage to express her whirlwind of feelings. She wants to meet. Soon. I don't know. What if I can't live up to her expectations? Melanie clenched her fist, determination shining in her eyes. You're more than able. This is the opportunity we've been waiting for. Don't let fear dictate how you step forward. As adrenaline surged, Jenna felt a shift within herself. The push toward action was palpable. They needed to prepare. This was not just about impressing the mentor but revealing their authentic selves. They spent the next few days in a feverish state of brainstorming. Each evening, as they scribbled on notepads, their discussions veered from frantic to focused. Jenna suggested they outline their goals, their struggles, and how they envisioned growth. It wasn't merely an agenda but a manifesto, a declaration of their truth. Yet, even as they prepared, a shadow loomed inside her. What if this moment opened old wounds? She wrestled with her self-image, questioning whether the scars of her past would overshadow her present aspirations. Jenna kept reconsidering, second-guessing her own ability to present as a competent professional who was just as worthy of the mentor's time. The morning of their meeting crept in with a tense stillness. As she stood in front of the mirror, Jenna scrutinized her reflection, weighing the manifold layers of insecurities against the spark of resolve. She practiced words, rehearsed gestures, yet they felt foreign, like trying on someone else's skin. Sensing her hesitation, Melanie knocked gently on the bathroom door. Hey, are you ready? Remember, it's not just about impressing her. It's about us continuing to write our own story. The reminder stirred something vital in Jenna. This was not just an audition, it was a conversation. With a determined nod, she stepped away from her doubts and emerged, the world seeming a shade brighter. They arrived at the mentor's office, a sleek space that felt daunting yet invigorating. Jenna's heart raced at the sight of her. The mentor was an embodiment of confidence, radiating the kind of assurance Jenna longed to possess. Welcome. I've been looking forward to this conversation, the mentor greeted, her voice warm and inviting, instantly calming Jenna's nerves. As they delved into their stories, Jenna discovered something remarkable. Speaking her truth invited letters of vulnerability that resonated, elevating both her own message and those of her sister. With each word spoken, a barrier crumbled. The mentor listened intently, nodding in recognition as Jenna revealed her tumultuous journey. Even as the words flowed, Jenna felt a swell of pride. This was no longer a recounting of failures, but a declaration of resilience. A mentor's role isn't just to guide but to challenge, the mentor stated. You need to face your story, even when it feels raw. The encouragement surged through Jenna, igniting a flame of belief, but as they wrapped up, the mentor tilted her head slightly, a glint of curiosity in her eye. What's holding you back from taking the next big step? Caught off guard, Jenna faltered. The mentor's inquiry struck deep, prompting her to confront the unprocessed parts of her narrative once more. Her heart raced, and the question spun in her mind: what was holding her back? In that moment, Jenna realized the meeting was only the beginning. More than mentorship, it represented a pivotal confrontation with her own limitations. As the realization washed over her, one thought crystallized. She had no idea what awaited them next, but one thing was certain: she was ready to break free. The path ahead shimmered with uncertainty, yet the depths of her resolve pushed her to embrace whatever challenge came next. She turned to meet Melanie's eyes, and without words, they both acknowledged their shared journey, one that was far from over but fueled by the strength of their stories. And with each step away from the office, the question lingered in Jenna's mind: how far would she be willing to go to confront the fears that had once bound her? 3 months later, Jenna sat in the kitchen, the morning sun spilling through the windows and illuminating a space filled with warmth and life. The aroma of fresh coffee mingled with the scent of cinnamon rolls, a far cry from the coldness of that stormy night just months ago. It was here, in their transformed home, that she savored a profound change, not only in her surroundings but within herself. Jenna, do you think we'll ever get our first client today? Melanie asked, her eyes sparkling with both anxiety and excitement as she arranged pamphlets on the dining table. Their mentorship program was finally launching, and the anticipation pulsated through the air. Absolutely, Jenna replied, confidence coursing through her veins. Each sip of coffee strengthened her resolve. This was an achievement she fought hard for, not just for herself but for Melanie too. Their collaborative project had allowed both of them to hone skills they thought were unattainable. Each brainstorming session, each vulnerability shared had rolled back the layers of their pasts, revealing not just a relationship but a partnership rooted in trust and growth. Jenna reflected on the transformations they'd undergone, acknowledging the depth of her own journey. No longer just a caretaker nursing her patients, she had ventured into the realm of a mentor, facilitating change and growth in herself and others. Rather than solely defining her identity by the past, she had stepped boldly into a world where she shaped her own narrative. As the clock ticked closer to the start of their first meeting, Jenna's pulse quickened. We deserve this, Mel. Everything we've constructed, it matters. The strides they had taken collectively opening their program, keeping that emotional transparency, had rekindled their sisterly bond and given rise to a newfound strength that neither had anticipated. With every minor setback they had faced during this endeavor, they had learned to rise together. Each time Melanie doubted herself, Jenna was steadfast, urging her to recognize the authenticity in her path. Revised frameworks, honest assessments, a recognition of weaknesses, these had become their guiding principles. Jenna had effectively conquered her own self-doubt, reconciling it with purpose. Approaching challenges with openness rather than avoidance became their mantra. The doorbell rang, slicing through their camaraderie as Jenna's heart leapt into her throat. It's showtime, Melanie whispered, barely containing her excitement. Jenna gestured for her sister to take the lead. Their newfound roles had delivered a sense of mutual respect. Melanie composed herself and opened the door to reveal a single mother, a glimmer of hope buried in her weary eyes. Instantly, Jenna felt her heart swell for the woman before them, a reflection of what had once terrified her, the fear of inadequacy every mother must navigate. Hi, I'm Tara, the woman spoke hesitantly, and Jenna felt the heaviness of the moment. Hi, Tara. We're so glad you're here, Melanie smiled brightly, signaling that warmth and authenticity overflowed in their shared space. As they settled into discussions, listening to Tara's struggles, Jenna witnessed the transformative magic of mentorship unfold. She demonstrated genuine care. Her years of nursing reflected in her attentive demeanor as Melanie encouraged Tara to share her obstacles and aspirations. In a heartbeat, she transitioned into a facilitator, demonstrating the skill they practiced so many times during their planning. And as Jenna spoke affirmatively to Tara, addressing her concerns, she reveled in the realization, this was what she was meant to do, the bridge not only for others' transitions but for her own. With each response, she found herself merging past vulnerabilities into tangible action, driving home the significance of leaning into discomfort. When the session concluded, Tara walked out with a flicker of renewed hope. Jenna and Melanie exchanged glances, and in that moment of unspoken defeat and bliss, an undeniable truth crystallized: their program wasn't just about mentoring others, it was a celebration of their individual journeys and shared learning. "Look what we've built," Jenna breathed, a smile breaking through as if a weight had been lifted from their shoulders, yet amidst the triumph hung a reminder. Personal growth is an ongoing journey, marred by the shadows of the past but illuminated by the understanding that facing fears creates possibilities. They embarked on this pathway not as perfect entities, but as two sisters, now bonded deeper than lifetimes of prior hurt. As Jenna poured 2 glasses of celebratory lemonade, she reflected on the tangible results of her transformation. She had not only accomplished the launch of their mentorship program but discovered a profound sense of self. The grind had brought her resilience and purpose. More importantly, she had learned that healing originates in understanding and connection with oneself and with others. Twirling the glass in her hand, a flush of satisfaction washed over her. She was grounded in her identity, recognized as not just a sister, but a mentor, a leader, a person who mattered in her own right. And as they raised their glasses in celebration, a bold notion ignited within her. Jenna now understood that every challenge, every misstep, and every victory navigated together only further solidified their bond. "Here's to new beginnings and the strength we have to embrace the future," Melanie said, her voice brimming with earnestness. "Absolutely, and to rewriting our story," Jenna affirmed, her heart full, deeply content in the knowledge that she had arrived at this moment as her absolute, authentic self. As they drank to their future, Jenna smiled brightly, enveloped in a warmth that echoed their collective growth. It was a resolution not only triumphed over but celebrated, solidly anchored in newfound strength. This was just the beginning. Now, as you reflect on this story of personal triumph, you need to subscribe now to catch more exclusive emotional journeys that inspire transformation. Leave a like to support the algorithm and ensure these powerful narratives continue to reach those who need them. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Jenna and Melanie's evolution. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who might find the strength they need through these stories. Your engagement makes a difference. Let's continue turning passion into purpose together.